jman000311 coming to you with his very first mock draft, picks 1 through 32. Let's get it started. Now I have the Indianapolis Colts taking Andrew Luck, just like everyone else. Let's move on. Not a lot needs to be said. The Washington Redskins acquired this pick from the Rams, just like everyone else. I say that they're taking Robert Griffin III from them. Now Minnesota Vikings. I say they take Matt Khalil, the offensive tackle from USC. He's by far the best offensive lineman in this draft, and Minnesota needs an offensive line to protect their quarterback after the loss of All-Pro guard Steve Hutchinson. The Cleveland Browns go on the clock after the Bucks, and I have them taking maybe the best playmaker in this draft, Trent Richardson. They need a playmaker on this team because they lost Peyton Hillis, and Josh Cribbs just isn't getting it done like he used to. This guy is tough, and he is the perfect running back for the system that the Cleveland Browns play. Next, in Tampa Bay, I have them taking the best corner in this draft, Morris Claiborne, because Aqib Talib is in some off-the-field trouble, and Rondé Barber is getting up there in age, so they need a cornerback that can compete with the quarterbacks in that division, with the Matt Ryans and the Drew Breeses. Next, I have the St. Louis Rams on the clock, and I have them taking wide receiver Justin Blackmon. In order for Sam Bradford to get better, Justin Blackmon is the way to go. He is the best receiver in this draft, and he will bring something special to the Rams that they've been lacking since the greatest show on turf. Trade. Now, in this trade, I have the Jacksonville Jaguars trading the 7th pick to the Cleveland Browns for the 22nd pick and the 37th pick and the 247th pick. Excuse me. I have the Cleveland Browns here taking Ryan Tannehill. They got their playmaker. Now they can take that quarterback who can back up Colt McCoy. Excuse me. Who can back up Colt McCoy for a few years, and then he can end up being the franchise quarterback that this organization needs. Excuse me again. Now with Ryan Tannehill off the board, the Miami Dolphins, I think they'll take wide receiver Michael Floyd after trading away Brandon Marshall. Michael Floyd is kind of questionable for the Dolphins because he has a few off-the-field issues, and they got rid of off-the-field issues with Brandon Marshall, but he's the second best wide receiver, excuse me again, in this draft. He's right up there with Justin Blackmon and can transform this team and make a very interesting quarterback competition with David Garrard and Matt Moore. Next, I have the Carolina Panthers going on the clock, and I think they'll take Michael Brockers, the defensive tackle from LSU. They have good outside guys in Charles Johnson and Ed Hardy, but they're really missing that interior presence, and I think Michael Brockers can start right away for them and can really have a great impact on their defense. The Buffalo Bills, after getting their pass rushers in free agency, I think they'll take the offensive lineman Riley Reese to play left tackle. He isn't the prototypical left tackle that you really want. He's more of a nasty guy. That's what Iowa produces, nasty offensive linemen. I think he'll be better at right tackle, but I think he'll be a good starter at left tackle for many years in the NFL. And the Bills definitely need an offensive lineman with their two great running backs in Fred Jackson and C.J. Spiller, and to protect their long-term quarterback who they've committed to, Ryan Fitzmagic. Kansas City Chiefs are now on the clock, and I have them taking offensive lineman Dave DeCastro from Stanford. Now, they're getting Jamal Charles back, and they still have Desmond Cluster, and they signed Peyton Hillis in free agency, so John Asamoah is doing a really nice job on the other side, but they lost Brian Waters a few years ago, and they really haven't been able to replace him, and I think David DeCastro will really do a nice job replacing him in their system. Now the Seattle Seahawks on the clock. They need a pass rusher to complement Chris Clemens, so I think they'll take the best defensive player there, or that's still left on the board, Melvin Ingram from South Carolina. He is scheme diverse, and he will pass rush, run, stop, do anything. The way that they used him in South Carolina, they move him around everywhere, and that's just what the Seahawks need, a guy who can do everything. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, they desperately need a left tackle, even though they re-signed Levi Brown. Now, Jonathan Martin is the best pass-blocking offensive tackle I think there is in this draft. He did a great job protecting Andrew Luck at Stanford, and I think he'll do just as good a job in the NFL protecting John Skelton or Kevin Kolb, whoever the Cardinals quarterback will be. Now the Cowboys, they need a tough corner to fix that secondary that has been pretty bad over the last few years. And you can't get much tougher than Drake Kirkpatrick from Alabama. He is by far the toughest cornerback in this league. He has awesome zone cover skills and awesome press man skills, and that's just how the Cowboys play in their 3-4 defense. Now the Philadelphia Eagles, they've got all of their linebackers in free agency, so I think they take a D tackle in Fletcher Cox, who can complement Cullen Jenkins. So Cullen Jenkins can be more productive, and Fletcher Cox can have something. He can be a substitution guy, or just play in that basic 4-3 scheme on defense with the Philadelphia Eagles. Now the New York Jets, they really need a pass rusher, and you can't get much better than Quentin Coples from North Carolina. He is really going to transform that defensive line where they've been lacking. They took Muhammad Wilkerson in the first round last year, but he really didn't do much last year. So I think Quentin Copples is the best way to go for the New York Jets. Oh, my camera fell, my camera fell. Be back. Everybody good? Okay, let's continue. Now, the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and they need a guy who can complement Keith Rivers and Carlos Dunlap, who really came up last year. And this is the best guy, I think, that's still on the board in Courtney Upshaw from Alabama, who can add something that this team is missing, because their defense is tough, but it's not as tough as the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers defenses that are in that AFC North division. Now, go Bolt, San Diego Superchargers on the clock now, and I have them taking Dontari Poe from Memphis. Yes, they re-signed Antonio Garay, and yes, they're trying to work out deals with Lou Castillo, but who's the other guy on that D-line? I'd say the perfect nose tackle is Dontari Poe, and have Lou Castillo and Antonio Garay on the outsides, giving them a really, really big defensive line that can be a really good run-stopping force. Now, the Chicago Bears are on the clock now. I have them taking defensive end Nick Perry, so they can have someone to complement Julius Peppers on the opposite side of him. Nick Perry is really going to he's really going to improve upon the defensive line that the Bears already have with Israel Adonijah and Julius Peppers. Next, the Tennessee Titans, they lost Barry Rude in free agency, and Luke Kuechly is the best linebacker in this draft. I think 20 is a little late for him, but I really couldn't find anyone in desperate need of a linebacker that didn't need anything else, so I have Luke Kuechly going right here, and he is going to be the perfect replacement for Bo Rude, calling plays and audibles. He's a really smart guy, as you can see in that photo on the right with the glasses, so he's got to be smart if he wears glasses. So let's move on. Back to the Cincinnati Bengals. This is the pick that they got. This is their pick, the last pick they had from the Saints. So I have them taking the safety Mark Barron. They have one really good corner and one decent corner in Leon Hill. I'm sorry, his name slips my mind right now. And the other one is Nate Clements, so they need a safety to complement Taylor Mays, and I think Mark Barron is the perfect one for that. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars, I have them right here because of the trade that happened in the beginning with the Cleveland Browns. Now, they need a defensive end to get some pass rush to ease up the pressure on their secondary, and I think Whitney Merciless is the perfect guy for that. He is tough and rough, just what the Jaguars need to build on that defense. Now, the Detroit Lions need an offensive tackle because Jeff Baptist is getting up there. I give them Mike Adams, the offensive tackle from Ohio State. I would think that they would put him on the right side first, and then in a year or two switch Jeff Baptist and Mike Adams if it goes that way. So Mike Adams is the left tackle, Jeff Baptist is the right tackle. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock, and they got rid of Father Time, James Harrison, and they need another middle linebacker, so who's better for that scheme than Dante Hightower? He's a big, rough, and tough guy who will really fit in just how James Ferrier, I said Harrison before, James Ferrier he could do James Ferrier's job perfectly. Now, the Denver Broncos, the Peyton Manning-led Denver Broncos, how about that I have them now taking Jarrell Worthy. They lost Broderick Bunkley in free agency to the Saints, so they need another guy to replace him, and Jarrell Worthy is that big force in the center of the defensive line. You want the pass rush and stop the run. Oops. Well. Now we have the Houston Texans on the clock, and you already saw I had them taking the wide receiver Kendall Wright from Baylor. Kevin Walter's been their number 2 for a while, and he's starting to slow down because he's getting older, so I think Kendall Wright is perfect for the job because he is that small receiver that everyone wants. Everyone wants a big receiver and a small receiver, and guys in between that in the middle, and he is the sole purpose why Robert Griffin got the Heisman and why he was so great is because of Kendall Wright, is what I think. Now, the New England Patriots, what? I don't have them trading this pick? Yeah, I don't have them trading this pick because they need another safety to help Pat Chung because Pat Chung can't do it by himself. And Harrison Smith is awesome. He is one of my favorite players in this draft, and I think he could do wonders in the Patriots scheme with Bill Belichick. Now, the Green Bay Packers, I have them taking Shea McClellin, and I thought this was a bit of a dig, but Shea McClellin is a guy who can complement Clay Matthews and play on the D-line, so I think Shea McClellin is just another Clay Matthews. So next up, I have another trade. I have the Baltimore Ravens trade the 29th pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers for wide receiver Mike Wallace. Yes, the Pittsburgh Steelers put a first-round tender on Wallace, and I think that the Ravens will take advantage of this because Ozzie Newsome, their scouting guy, says that they need a receiver. So the Pittsburgh Steelers right here, I have them taking wide receiver Stephen Hill from Georgia Tech. They lose Mike Wallace, get another Mike Wallace, a taller Mike Wallace that could end up being better than Mike Wallace in the future, Stephen Hill. He's raw, fast, big, and physical. I think he's going to be the exact clone of Calvin Johnson one day in the NFL. Next, I have the San Francisco 49ers on the clock, and I have them taking Andre Branch, the defensive end, to complement Justin Smith. Yes, they have Aldon Smith as a linebacker, but Andre Branch is more of a run-stopping defensive end, and I think that with Justin Smith, Isaac Sapuaga, and Andre Branch on the field on that D-line, along with Aldon Smith, can really bring terrorists to the NFL with the 49ers defense. Now up, I have another trade. You thought the Patriots were going to take both of their picks. I bet you did. The New England Patriots trade the 31st pick to the Miami Dolphins for a 2013 first-round pick and a 2014 third-round pick. And who are they going to take? Brandon Weeden, the quarterback from Oklahoma State. Yes, he's 28, but the Miami Dolphins need a quarterback because they failed on all aspects of getting a quarterback this offseason, and I think it'll make for an interesting quarterback competition between Brandon Weeden, David Garrard, and Matt Moore. Now, your Super Bowl champion New York Giants I have on the clock right now, and I have them taking the great tight end from Stanford, Coby Fleener, because they lost 2 tight ends in the Super Bowl. And Coby Fleener is a great replacement for them. So Coby Fleener from Stanford is the player that I have at the end of the first round, and that is your first round of this draft. All of the predictions worked for the Miami jman000311, and all of the images were brought to you by Google Images.